those of you that don't know me, my name's Jack. You've kind of already heard that. And I'm going to be filling in for Potty because he's going to teach at high school. And I'm really excited for this opportunity. I've been preparing a lot, and I actually had to present to Ben yesterday, and I was really nervous about it. But I finally got it over with, so it's like, all right, the hard part's done. But he's here anyway again, so nerves are back on. But anyway, I am really excited to get to talk to you guys tonight. And I want to tell you a bit about myself before I get into it, but I just want to open up the prayer. Dear God, thank you for letting us come here, and thank you for bringing us here tonight. I pray that you just open our hearts as we dive into your word, and you'll just help us be receptive and discerning with it, God. And we just be open to where you're calling us, God, and as we learn to go where you follow us, that we'll just have open hearts to you and realizing your will and how much you care for us, God, and how much you sacrifice for us. You guys say a prayer? Amen. Okay, so what's up, everybody? Just to tell you a bit about myself. I am an intern here at the Lakes, and I'm a senior at Childs. I have been a Christian for probably 2.5 years or 2 years or so. But I was raised in a Christian home, and I guess I always consider myself a Christian, but I never really was, because I didn't really realize what it entailed until a couple years ago. Where was I? Anyway, yeah, I didn't really realize what it meant to be a following of Christ until a couple years ago. And the reason I never really bothered to figure out what that was because I was more concerned with what I wanted to do. I was more concerned with hanging out with my friends and doing what they wanted to do. When I was in middle school or in like early high school, my friends was like the biggest part of my life, and it was kind of like what I revolved around. And I'm sure it's like the same from a lot of you guys, that it's a matter of like hanging out with your friends or doing whatnot. And when I was with them, I was having a lot of fun, and I thought if I was a Christian, maybe I'd lose some of that fun. Maybe I wouldn't be able to enjoy that. And some of you may feel that way. Some of you may feel like Christianity is just a matter of don't do this, don't do that, you know. Don't hang out with your friends and have fun, or like don't be mean to your parents, or don't say inappropriate jokes, or don't lie, or cheat on tests. But tonight I just want us to take a look at the New Testament and like see what Christ had to say about this, because I think we'll find that a lot of times he didn't mention what you can and what you can't do. He spent a lot of time with people, and so I really want us to share. I want to show you guys a story tonight about a guy who had an interaction with Christ and what it means to be a follower of him. So if you guys want to read along with me, I hope you will. It's in Luke chapter 5, starting at 27. Again, that's Luke chapter 5, starting at 27. And while you guys are turning there, I guess I'll just show you, or tell you guys what's going on in Jesus' ministry at this point. Jesus had been Jesus just started his ministry, basically. And
everybody need to pass out Bibles. Do anyone need a Bible? You want to do that?
Everybody has a Bible.
Yeah, Bible?
No, we're good.
We're good. Okay, we're good.
Do you know the lights?
you guys got it?
Wait, chapter what?
Chapter 5.
Oh.
Verse what?
Yep, starting at 27. But anyway, basically, so far in the story is Jesus had just started his ministry, and he had just started gathering up his disciples, like his crew of guys he was going to be doing a lot of his miracles with. But he had already started doing miracles. He had started like healing blind people and like healing the lepers and doing all these crazy things. So people that knew about Jesus at this point and had heard about all the stuff he was doing. And after he did all these incredible things and people, he started gathering this big crew of followers almost. He went up to this guy, and I want to start reading at this point. Starting at 27. After this, Jesus went out and saw a tax collector by the name of Levi sitting at his tax booth. Okay, let's just hold on there. I know that I didn't get very far, but I really want to emphasize this for you because I think it's pretty important. Like the Bible was saying about this tax collector, Levi, some of you may know what a tax collector was or what it entailed to be one, but there's a lot to it we probably don't know. So I kind of want to like highlight this for you almost. But being a tax collector, their jobs were to go and collect people's taxes, obviously, but they also had a position of power where they could steal from them and take more so than they were required to. And so the example of this would be like, you know, if you're at home with your brother or sister and your mom left the older brother and sister in charge, and somehow they felt like they had a bunch of power and they all of a sudden went from being your friend to like your traitor. And that's how tax collectors were looked at, because they were raised Jewish, and so they were Jews, and they were stealing from their own brothers and sisters. And so they were really, really disliked by the community, and no one really seemed to care for them. It's kind of like that person that nobody likes. I don't know if you guys like Tom Tom, but it's like Tom Tom pretty much. But anyway, so they were very disliked, and because of this, but they were Jews, so they had to go to church and they had to do these things that Jews were required to do basically. But since they were disliked, when they did go to church, they weren't allowed to give testament, so basically they weren't allowed to talk, and they weren't allowed to tithe. And when you guys hear you're not allowed to tithe, you probably think, oh, that's awesome, I'm in 6th and 7th grade, I get to keep my $10, or however much you have. I don't know. But, what? Just kidding. But for them, tithing was like everything. If they weren't tithing, they weren't doing their jobs as Jews, they weren't being able to participate in the sacrifice, which basically meant that they were unclean, they were unworthy almost of being there. And they were pretty much outcasted from it. They felt like even though they were there physically, they weren't really connecting with God there. There wasn't any real purpose for them being there. And some of you may feel like this tonight, that you're coming here physically, but you're not really connecting with God. You don't know what it means to be following Him. And you may feel that church is just something not for you. Or maybe you feel like if people knew your sin, like they knew the tax collector's sin, or they knew Levi's sin, if your sin was out in the open and you were at your tax booth, then they may not let you in either. You may be ashamed of it. But imagine being in Levi's position, being that tax collector, being that hated person that nobody liked, and you're at your tax booth, you're in your sin, and the Son of God's walking up to you. Jesus is walking up to him at this point. If it was me, I'd be really stressed out. I'd be really worried. I feel like the way I thought of this was if I'm lying and cheating on a test, I'm smoking and drinking all at once in my room or something, and my mom's about to walk in. I would be really frustrated, to say the least. But this is even worse. It's the Son of God. He's perfect. He never did anything wrong in his life. And it's funny what he says to him next. If you guys want to read along with me, it's in 27. "Follow me," Jesus said to him. And again, I just want to read that it's "follow me," he says to him. And I feel like if I was Levi and I heard that, I would think he'd be joking. Be like, really, Jesus? Do you know what's going on here? Do you know what I'm doing? Nobody likes me, and I'm doing something sinful. But Jesus did know, because he's Jesus. And he still said to him, "Follow me." He said it to the person that nobody liked, and he said it to them even at their worst. And he's saying it to all of us. He's saying, "Follow me," to our sin in public, open for everyone to see. Whatever that is, whether it's lying or cheating or cussing or smoking or disrespecting your parents, whatever that may be, Jesus is saying, "Follow me," at that point. And Levi would have been amazed by this when he heard this, because he went from being someone nobody liked to being a part of something. He was finally asked to join Christ to do something. And normally throughout his life he had just been said oh yeah, you should come to church, but don't talk to anyone, don't mention anything, just stand in the back basically. But Christ was I want you to follow me. I want you to be a part of my guys that I'm trying to start this amazing ministry with, almost. He wasn't saying all right, follow me and be the guy in the back of the crowd, but be be one of my 12 disciples, be one of the main guys that I hang out with. And so for Levi, this was incredible for him. And what he does next is so appropriate to being a follower of Christ. So in verse 28, "And Levi got up, left everything, and followed him." I feel like Levi did something that we normally wouldn't do. Levi left everything to follow God. And when he left everything to follow God, he was leaving his job as a tax collector. So basically he was walking to his boss's office and giving him a bird. He was saying to the Roman Empire, "I don't want to be a part of you anymore." And for them, if a Jew said that to them, they were insulted. They were all right, well, don't ever show your face here again. He went from having a job of excellent security and doing whatever he wanted to being totally unsecure and basically into a life of poverty almost. But for him, it was easy. He wanted that. He wanted to be a part of Christ. And when we hear that, that's so foreign to us, because for us as Christians, a lot of times in our culture is to hold on to the things we want, is to hold on to what makes us happy. And we may think following God will run dry, or we think that if we let everything go for God, then maybe we'll be bored, maybe we won't like it. And those are legitimate thoughts, because a lot of us have experienced trying to follow God, and it just ended up being boring, I've been there. I tried to follow God, and it just ended up dry, and I ended up not liking it. I ended up just wanting to go hang out with my friends and do sketchy things. But I think that's because we forget this next verse. I think it's because we forget what Christ is going to do right here. At verse 27, I want you guys to read along with me. Then Levi held a great banquet for Jesus at his house, and a large crowd of tax collectors and other sinners were eating with them. I'm just going to read that again. Then Levi held a great banquet for Jesus at his house, and a large crowd of tax collectors and others were eating with them. I think that's the part right there that we need to hold on to tonight. I think if you guys leave without knowing anything I said, I want you guys to remember this, because what Jesus does after he says, follow me, after he says, leave everything and become a disciple of me, he basically gets on our level and builds a relationship with us. He doesn't leave us with a book of rules and say, I'll see you in a couple weeks, I hope you're still following God, I hope you still like it, but whatever. He comes to him, and he goes to his house, and he hangs out with his friends, and he becomes a part of his life. He just becomes his friend almost. He builds this incredible relationship with him. And I think that's the thing that we miss. That's the thing we forget sometimes. That when we become a follower of God, we get inherited into this relationship with him. And I think if we had that relationship, that's what makes it so we won't dry up in our relationship, or in our following of him. If we had that relationship, we wouldn't have to be told to pray every day. We wouldn't have to be told to read every day, because we'd want that. We'd want to go to God with our praises and our problems and just have this community with him. It's kind of like how I don't have to tell you to hang out with your friends. You just do it because you want to, You enjoy your time spent with them. Or else they probably wouldn't be your friends, unless it's like that tag-along kid. But we're going to guess that God probably isn't like that. But anyway, so God's like this person you can come to and, say hey, here's what's up. This is what's going on in my life. And God will speak into it. He's not going to be okay. He's going to be probably show you through somebody or show you through prayer and reading, That's what having a relationship with him looks like. Reading the Bible and talking about it with your friends and just praying with them. And I guess I just want us to imagine what it would be like if we were doing that. What it would be like if we were going to God in prayer and reading and just being a friend with him, having a relationship with him. If we were followers of God, not because of whether or not we did right or did wrong, but because of the personal-ish, the friendship we have with him. And I just feel like if we were to really know that, then it would define Christians as something not lame or boring, but something exciting. Because if you have a friendship with someone and you're having a lot of fun and someone notices it, they probably want to be friends with that person too. I know I felt like that when I first started getting my friends together. And I think Christ is the same way in your life. And I feel like if I was to think about Levi, and at his point, when he started doing this, he probably didn't know where it was going, but he committed to it, and it ended up changing his life. Because Levi, if you don't know, ended up becoming Matthew, and Matthew wrote one of the 4 Gospels. And that's pretty incredible, We almost played his name today in four corners. That's a pretty big deal, I feel like. But for real, it completely changed Matthew's life, and it'll change all your lives too, if you become a follower of God in relationship with him. And I can say that it's changed my life, because before I was a follower of God, my biggest worry was I would lose my friends, or I wouldn't be able to joke around with them. But when I did commit to it, and ended up changing my life and changing the lives of my friends around me, because like Sam mentioned earlier, I've known him since I was in first grade, so we've been best friends for a long time. And me and Sam used to be really sketchy together and doing whatever we wanted. But I don't know why that was funny, I guess we're joking. But by just making those decisions to become a follower of him, it changed both of our lives, and we are where we're at now, I'm kind of speaking in front of you, and Sam's leading you guys in 4 corners. It's not cool. Just kidding. No, but for real, it'll change y'all's lives if you can really know this. And so, I guess I just want to challenge you guys to become followers of God, not through doing right and doing wrong, or not lying or cheating, or all those things, but just don't worry about those things. Just worry about going to God in relationship. Just spending time with him and praying with him and reading. And I think the other things will work themselves out. So I just want to close this in prayer. God, thank you for this time, and just thank you for giving us your word. And thank you for just the sacrifice you made with your son on the cross to die for us, God, that we can become known to you, and that you can love us for all that, God. And just thank you for building this relationship with us. Thank you for being so a part of our lives and wanting so much intimacy, God. And we just thank you for all that you're doing, God. And I pray that as we learn to follow you more, and as we learn to go to you in prayer, and as we learn to build a relationship with you, that you just be there, you just be faithful for us, God. And you always have been, God. You're always there when we seek you. You're always right there to answer our prayers. You're always right there to take care of us. And you're always holding us, Father. And I just want us to leave here this week knowing that. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Hi, God.